think you got what it takes to be a good explorer? I think so. I'm going to go over the 5 common mistakes that students and clinicians make when they're using the 11-12 Explorer. These mistakes are causing the students or the clinicians not to be able to go subgingival enough to feel the calculus. So it feels like everything is great. There is no calculus there, but really there is. So stay tuned. We're going to go over those 5 common mistakes right now. Hi, I'm Anna Benner. I am founder of Visual DH, where we make instrumentation and content easier to understand for dental hygienists through videos. The one mistake that I'm seeing students making is that their handles are flared out towards the buccal, way too much towards the buccal. I always recommend having your handle up towards the opposite arch or towards the opposite arch as much as possible. So I see students doing this all the time when they're going through and trying to explore, and they're way too far out here, so they're not feeling the calculus that's directly underneath the contact. And I'm just going to show you a little example of what that looks like. So I'm going to take this tooth out here, and I'm going to show you what happens when we flare the handle way too far out. So what happens is I took this out and I drew on the tooth. This blue is going to represent the contact of the teeth, where the 2 premolars touch each other. It's a little bit bigger just because you'll have to be able to see it in the video. But then I drew the calculus in black right below it. So I'm going to do an example of what I see students doing a lot is they'll flare their handle out too much buccally, and they're going to explore on that tooth, and what's happening is they're going to hit the contact of the teeth and never feel that calculus. It's going to feel so smooth, everything feels so good, and then they're going to tell me, yep, there's no calculus there. But really what happens is I tell them to tip their handle up towards the maxilla as much as possible. Doot, 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 doot. Tip it up as much as they can towards the maxilla, and then all of a sudden they're feeling that calculus right underneath that contact. So that's why it's important to keep your handle tipped up or your handle tipped towards the opposite arch. Otherwise, if it's too much buccally, you're going to end up hitting the contact and never feeling that calculus. Another mistake I often see is that students' handles are tipped not buccally this time, but now too much towards the anterior. Now I want to show you what happens, and I've even seen a lot of professionals that will do this as well, where they go through and explore and their handle is coming out the front of the mouth. Now what happens here is when I go down into the pocket, let's say I have a 5-6 millimeter pocket here, and there's calculus in that pocket. Now if I'm here, just look at the terminal shank of this instrument. Do you see what actually hits first? Is that it actually hits the gingival tissue. Do you see that? And so I'm not able to get deep down into that pocket when I'm tipped too much towards the anterior. Even here, my terminal shank will hit gingival tissue, and the gingival tissue will make it feel like I'm at the base of the pocket, when really I'm not at the base of the pocket yet. Instead, what I need to do is tip that handle up, try and make it as parallel as possible, and now I'm going to be able to slip down into that pocket and feel that calculus like I should. Versus here, I will hit gingival tissue first before I get down in that base of the pocket. Do you see the difference? When it's more parallel, I'm able to get deep down and I'll feel that calculus more. So what I see students doing often is that I'll tell them that there's calculus on the distal, and it doesn't matter which tooth it is, but they'll do this, where they're going interproximal, and then they're telling me, oh, I'm not feeling any of that calculus, and I'm telling them that's because it's interproximal on the distal. Yeah, I'm just not feeling it, and I'm telling them that they're just hanging out at that line angle, and what I really want them to do is fully commit to their roll and fully roll interproximal. So I'm going to remove this tooth here and kind of show you what that looks like. Okay. So this is where I see the students checking for calculus, and it's just at that line angle, And instead, we want to see them fully roll interproximal here. And now I'm going to be able to feel that calculus a lot better. Okay? Not just hanging out over here. This is where students tend to like to do it. And they miss a lot of calculus because this is where they're exploring. You need to keep rolling so you're fully covering that distal surface. The next thing that I see students making a mistake of is, and I guess it's not a mistake because this is how we teach them, but eventually I want students to end up doing things differently. So normally in school you're taught to fulcrum on a hard surface inside the mouth. So this is what we're typically going to see and when you're going through. Now I can't lay my handle down any further when I'm fulcruming inside the mouth because this person can only open up so much. So you can see my terminal shank here and my tooth is not parallel. Eventually, when the school lets you do extraoral fulcrums, this is going to be the best way to get subgingival calculus. So as a hygienist in the real world, if you are not using extraoral fulcrums, you are not getting all of the calculus subgingival. Promise you. So what you need to do instead is we're going to cup the chin here, and we're going to put a little bit more instrument in the mouth, and now you're going to see that you're able to go sub a lot more, and that my terminal shank is actually going to be parallel. So I'm going to be able to feel a lot more calculus versus if I am actually fulcruming inside the mouth on a hard structure. So using extraoral fulcrums whenever possible is going to be your best bet to being able to get that terminal shank parallel and be able to get more sub. Again, I can show you here if I'm fulcruming on a hard surface, okay, and you can see that the terminal shank is not parallel, okay, not parallel at all. And then the second I can do an extraoral fulcrum, put a little more instrument in the mouth, now I'm going to have my terminal shank where it's more parallel, okay, see that? Versus if I actually have to fulcrum on a hard surface. Okay, so that's another tip, is to use extraoral fulcrums. It's going to let you get subgingival a lot easier. You're going to feel a lot more of that calculus with your Explorer and be able to find it and then be able to get it off easier. And for the very last common mistake that I see with the 11-12 Explorer is the chair position. Please use the designated chair positions. They were invented, they were created to make your life easier, not harder. So I often will correct a student and they can't feel the calculus. I will often correct their chair positions and say, let's sit like we taught you in the correct chair position. And then all of a sudden, miraculously, they're able to feel the calculus. Plus, it's also going to help with your body in the long run. You're going to stay healthier much longer. So use the designated chair positions. I promise you, it will help you. Okay? So stay in your chair positions, people. They're created to make you a better person. So do it. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope it helped you be a better clinician when it comes to the 11-12 Explorer. I hope you feel every little speck of calculus that there is on that tooth. And now, if you can feel it, you can get it off. So share this video like crazy. Write in the comment section if there was something interesting that you learned with the 11-12 Explorer. And I will see you in the next video.